evening. You're watching To The Point. Just to get you another example of how it's a country that we live in which is obsessed with being fair, and how a brand has pretty much immortalized that over decades. This is on Sundays. This is on Sunday's edition of Matrimonial, and I just want to pull that out and show you what is it that most grooms want in terms of when they want a bride. They want a fair bride. I just want to take you through some of that. Can you see right here? Fair Agarwal bride. Just take you bit down here, right here. Fair. Let's take you right there. Fair. Beautiful, Gori, convent educated bride needed. Very fair, very beautiful bride for engineer. Right here. Suitable match for 26 years, strikingly beautiful, tall, slim, fair. Beautiful, convent educated, fair. So along with convent educated, homely, beautiful, fair is something which finds a constant mention. But in India, you're born in various brackets of being privileged. One of that bracket is that you're born fair, because for a lot of people and a lot of young women, young teenagers, it's been a constant fight over decades to fight a stigma, to be socially conditioned into believing that fair is beautiful, dark is not. Well, this one brand, Fair and Lovely, has epitomized all of that over decades. They've suddenly decided to drop fair, suddenly decided to see what they thought was their error in judgment over decades. What made them do so? And by just removing fair from their brand, are they going to continue to peddle the same tube with a different brand? Yes. So how fair is that? So will it make any difference at all when you sell the old wine in a new bottle, or the old same cream for fairness in just new branding? Or is this the first step towards empowerment for many? For many, it's a whole cycle that has come together today when they see this brand dropping fair, because they've been pretty much scarred by it over years. Well, that's the question we're going to pose to our panelists this evening. I have Chandana Hiran. She's a campaigner. I also want to point out that Chandana has over the last months campaigned extensively against HUL to take down Fair and Lovely. She's run a campaign, a petition on change.org over weeks, and one of the reasons of this global campaign is that HUL actually took down the word lovely from Fair and Lovely. I also have Brinda Adige, social activist, been very vocal against brands such as Fair and Lovely throughout her activism career. Dilip Cherian, image consultant, joins us, as well as Prahlad Kakkar, ad guru, who's made, if I may add 2 advertisements on Fair and Lovely itself. I want to begin with young Chandana, because I think all our panelists would reckon she might be really young, but she's pretty much today the one who has the voice to be able to talk about this. Chandana, congratulations. Would you take us through this campaign that you run, or you ran on change.org, which today you actually see this brand dropping, at least, you know, in terms of branding, fair from Fair and Lovely. Quite lovely, I must add.
Right. Thank you so much for having me. And I have been running this petition on change.org for the last 2 weeks for Fair and Lovely to be more inclusive and to change its narrative. Because for decades, Fair and Lovely has been presenting to us a narrative that only fair is lovely. And through its advertisements, it has been demeaning dark skin and portraying really wrong ideas of beauty. So that was the reason why I started this petition, because being a brown-skinned girl in India, I've also felt insecure and underconfident looking at those ads.
All right, okay. So, you know, Chandana, stay with me, because, you know, if anyone is going to sit there and say that HUL did an absolute wonderful thing and lauding HUL for it, well, one must just stand back, because as a company, HUL, Hindustan Levers, over decades, in India at least, has actively promoted racism against women, actively promoted colorism. It's not the first time they've come under criticism. It's for decades now. They've pretty much been forced to pull fair out of their brand, Fair and Lovely. It hasn't happened on the goodwill of their heart or their statement where they suddenly say that, you know, they find that what they've been doing all along was possibly wrong. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they're pretty much forced to do so. So no kudos there. But Prahlad Kakkar, what do you make of it? The company clearly seemed to not have any choice at all. It was staring them on the face. The writing was on the wall. They had to take it down. But even now, it's pretty much repackaged.
The COVID has, the epidemic, pandemic has actually brought in a fallout where people are looking to see which companies are standing by them and which companies are not, because it's no longer enough to just try and sell a product. Today, a company is either your friend and somebody who you can trust, or a company is the bad guys because they're just trying to take advantage of the situation. So I think a lot of companies like Unilever, especially worldwide, have been reaching out to their consumers and saying to remain loyal, to say that we are your friend, we are with you in bad times and good times. So it's not just that we look you up at good times, but we're also with you in bad times. I think this is one attempt to try and undo what they've done, to try and say that, okay, we're going to change the name, so we're good guys. But, I mean, if you have a discerning consumer, he's going to turn around and say, what about the 20 years of hardening a stance that was highly mythological and all the damage that you've done so far? So the whole generations of people have grown up believing that if they're not fair, they're inferior.
But the
so
point...
how are they going to undo that? It's not good enough just changing the name.
Well, they're not undoing it. They've just taken the word fair out of Fair and Lovely because the cream continues to sell. But Brinda Adige, that's what I want to come to you, because it's not really about this one particular brand. This brand might have been, let's say the brand ambassador for everything that has been wrong in India for decades. It's something you've been campaigning against.
Right. I also have a problem with the lovely, as if you wear a cream or apply something and then you would be lovely, and if you do not, then you are not lovely. The obsession is with us in India and also probably in other Asian countries on this whole fairness. And like you pointed out in the beginning of this debate, look at every advertisement asking for a bride. Talk of fair, talk of lovely. And this is exactly what the ad campaigners of these companies who sell this work on the insecurities, work on all of these social attitudes which are wrong that is being built, saying that if you apply this cream, then you will socially and economically be going up in the ladder. You will get a job, you will get a better groom. All of this is not only hurting the sentiments of people, but is also scarring the minds of people.
Right.
Who think that they cannot live if they do not have fair skin. And that is exactly what we need to challenge and call out.
Dilip Cherian, what do you make of this? Stereotypes have built a brand in this country, and that brand has then fed into each and every stereotype, which stands for being fair. Do you think, as an image, HUL was left with no choice but to pull off at least fair from their Fair and Lovely campaign? Mr. Cherian, we are having a problem with your audio. We're going to try and reconnect that audio, but we're having a bit of a problem with your audio. Would you just reconnect that and we'll come right back to you? Channa,
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? No.
We can hear you, Mr. Cherian. Go ahead.
Okay. I think it is a global moment. It happened at a time when the Black Lives Matter struck home. But I think HUL was selling a product which is deeply embedded in the Indian psyche. They made things far worse by huge volumes of consumer marketing over the last 2 and 3 decades. But I think that this is a theme that goes through Indian society. You'll also be shocked to know that this kind of marketing has done huge damage across the country. Fair and Lovely's large sales come from South India, and you'd be even more shocked to know that men there are the ones who are bigger consumers than women of this brand. So this preying on people's insecurities is something that marketing has worked very strongly to make sure that sales can be raised. But has this happened just because of one thing? I think essentially global pressures on color prejudices have reached a crescendo, and levers globally realize it's better to back off. At this point of time, as Prahlad said, consumers and customers are excessively sensitive of the kinds of values that are being thrust on them by marketers. And I think the product will go on, unfortunately, because as I said, the fact is that there is a seam which runs through our society. What you read out from matrimonial ads is something which is fed by generations of parents who are looking for brides of this kind. It is not this generation which is at fault. It is what has seeped into the minds, and it was a smart marketing move to try and capitalize on that. Now it's time that they quickly backed away, because I think a new generation is getting into that marketing, into a power in the market, and they need to express themselves, and levers would do very well to back off from the product.
Well, you know, it's transcended generations. If you talk about being scarred with at least this social conditioning, where a tube can actually buy you social currency. And it's right there on our television right now, because you have a 22-year-old Channa and you have a Brinda Adige sitting right beside her. And they're both pretty much talking about the same thing. And that's a generational gap. And Brinda, that has nothing to do, it's not an ageist joke at all. But, you know, just to put it there. So, Channa, I want to come back to you, because what made you start this petition? What was your own personal journey through it?
Right. So whatever has been said about insecurities, I completely relate to it. I think the brand has systematically sold insecurities to people through its product. Right before I started this petition, I spoke to a few people through my Instagram channel. I wanted to know what their stories are and how they have felt being brown-skinned in India. And you will not believe, I came across a story that touched me so much. There was a woman who applied Harpic on her face when she was a kid, because she believed that if it makes the tiles whiter, maybe it will make her face white too. And that is a really, really sad story for a kid to believe. So I guess we've all faced insecurities because of this cream, and it's just been a really cruel narrative. I've been posting advertisements of Fair and Lovely throughout the decades, and they all have just one narrative, that if you're dark skinned, then you're just automatically inferior and you're not going to achieve anything in life. And that one tube, that one product is going to be your emancipation in life. And once you become fair, you're going to have everything that you want. So I think now that Fair and Lovely is ready to change that narrative, it's a great step. And it's something that was long overdue. It was something that they had to do, and they had no choice, because it was a collective voice that was coming up against it.
You've taken this debate forward, because a lot of people today are torn, because some people are saying that it's exactly the same thing, because you're selling the same tube, it's the same cream, but it's changed the narrative is the other sentiment to it. But Brinda, and I'd pull you in on this with what Channa is saying, and what I also said in the beginning of this debate was, in India you seem to be bracketed in terms of privilege, and being born fair or on the fairer side is always a privilege, Brinda, and you, I'm sure, has seen it yourself over years.
Absolutely right. But let us also bring into our conversation that being dark-skinned, not only is this person an inferior person, but also the person belongs to a certain caste that is lower than the others. Only the fair-skinned ones belong to the so-called upper caste. And on the other part of it is, let us not say the goodwill of a company. Right now, February 2020, our government has introduced the Drugs and Magic Remedies draft bill. And over there, it talks about a 50 lakh fine to companies who will be promoting lies. Because at the end of the day, this is a lie. And that is why we need to start looking at it, not only on the side of you promoting lies, you hurting people and their lives, but also remember that you're accountable to what you're promoting.
Right.
And this means also those actors and sports people, athletes who endorse these kind of products. And selling the same cream with a different name is not fair.
That's what I want to come to. It's not fair. And Prahlad, I'll ask you about that, because there's Channa who's of the opinion that at least it changes the narrative. At least we are finally making a difference. We've been talking about it for decades. But do you think that ultimately the marketing of the product will be all about fairness? It will still be about fairness. Now you just won't call it fair, and I bet you'll call it glow.
I don't know whether it's going to be fairness. The lingering doubt is that as long as it's the same product, it might be with fairness. They'll have to change the formulation. And actually, see, right now it's a product, it's got bleach. Now, bleach is not good for your skin. So if they're going to turn around and say it's for a healthy, glowing skin, they'll have to put additions to the product. to make it genuinely good for the skin. And then run a campaign saying that a healthy, glowing skin, regardless of what color it is something that is beautiful.
Mr. Chairman, do you see this as a message? Do you see it as a as strong messaging, which will actually lead to further change because it's one chip at a time?
I think so. Don't forget that for this message to go through, you have to have huge numbers of retailers who will still push the product for the company using the thing that isse gori ho jaoge. So that is not going to change even if the strap line that the company uses in advertising is going to change. So we have to be realistic about this. It would be great if it would happen, but I'm saying that it will take time for it to penetrate into a market like India. And as far as glow, I'm not quite sure what it means because, if somebody is going to look like they are turning radioactive, that's not very healthy. And it certainly is not something that can be pushed. So I think that the company will have to reposition its strategy in this market. And as a lot of people are saying, maybe the smartest thing would be to have this product withdrawn for a while and then relaunch a product which is completely different and does not carry any of the baggage of the past, which is what is not acceptable to today's generation, globally as well as hopefully in India.
I'm going to take last comments and I'll go to Prahlad first because I'll reserve the last two comments for those ladies there. But, Mr. Kakkar, imaging, what message does it send to other cosmetic giants? Do you think a lot other Me Too brands out there will also now be forced into changing brand positioning? Especially, I was looking in right now, there's something called Fair and Lovely by Garnier as well.
They're already doing it. You see, a lot of cosmetic giants have actually gone. L'Oreal and all these people have a semi-whitening cream, but it's also basically a face cream. It is a skin cream. It's DNA skin, and then they sort of put it as a side swipe that it also makes you fair. But the point is that actually what it is, it's a sunblock. So if you don't go out into the sun, it doesn't make a difference whether you use it or not.
Okay, so, Brinda, for somebody who's followed the women's movement in this country, yes, it's as much about men as well, but mostly we've seen women be the, get the raw end of the stick or the short end of the stick mostly. Yes, men, like Dilip Cherin also said, are the ones who are using this brand a lot and they're stigmatized as well for being dark, but women face it more. Do you see this as a hallmark moment in India for the movement against this cream by many like us?
Absolutely. This is a hallmark moment. This is also a moment where the companies and others are realizing that we are not going to be silent anymore, where you are asking women of dark skin to conform to your sense of what is beautiful.
Right.
And that is what we are calling out today.
All right. Okay. So, Chandna, last question to you. What's the next petition that you're going to take over? Because this clearly made a dent.
So I think one point I'd like to raise is that Unilever is claiming that the cream does not contain bleach. So I guess they are trying to change the constituents of the cream, or I don't know what they're going to do with the cream. But yes, I do agree that just changing the narrative is not enough, and they have to do something with the product because no matter what they call it, it's still a fairness cream. And what I'd really like to see going forward is for Fair and Lovely to come out with an ad that celebrates all shades. Right. And it could be a huge ad campaign. And so maybe that could undo the damage that they have been doing all these years.
All right, okay, but many out there, I have a friend who'd say the damage is already done. So, but having said that, we are moving forward, and let's hope things change. I appreciate you joining us, gentlemen, Mr. Kakkar, Mr. Cherin. Thank you. Brinda Adige, always a pleasure to have you, and Chandna, more power to you. Bring on another petition, we'll all sign it. Thank you. We end this bulletin with what we started the show with, what we opened our show with. Thank you for watching. Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, Like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.